The sun had just begun its slow descent behind the tall palm trees when Amara lifted her calabash onto her head. The golden hue of the evening light bathed her dark skin, glinting off the beads that decorated her braided hair. She adjusted her wrapper and began the long, dusty walk to the river. The path was quiet, broken only by the rustle of dry leaves and the distant laughter of children playing somewhere behind the huts. Amara's feet kicked up fine dust as she walked, humming a song her late grandmother used to sing, a soft tune about hope and destiny. Her mother's voice had echoed in her head before she left. "Don't stay out too late, Amara. The forest near the river carries secrets." Amara had smiled, thinking her mother was just being her usual superstitious self. But as she neared the river, a cool wind brushed her neck. The trees swayed gently, whispering things she couldn't understand. She reached the water's edge, dropped her load, and sighed in relief. The river shimmered under the setting sun, stretching endlessly, calm and beautiful. Amara knelt, dipped her wrapper into the water, and began scrubbing. The coolness of the river soothed her hands. A few women were still washing nearby, chatting and laughing. After a while, one by one, they began to leave until only Amara remained. Then, a flash. Something shone under the old iroko tree across the bank. Amara squinted. At first, she thought it was a trick of the water, sunlight bouncing off the ripples. But the glimmer remained, steady, golden, alive. She stood slowly, her heartbeat rising. "What could that be?" she whispered. She stepped closer, the cool sand beneath her bare feet. The air felt heavier now, almost electric. There, half buried between the roots of the tree, was a small golden pot, round, smooth, and glowing faintly as though it held the very light of the sun inside. Amara froze. Her first thought was to run. Nobody in the village had ever seen gold, only heard stories from traders who passed through once in a while. Her second thought was to call someone, but her voice caught in her throat. The forest around her grew silent. Even the wind stopped moving. It was as if the world was holding its breath. Amara bent down slowly. The pot was warm to the touch, almost alive. The moment her fingers brushed it, a faint sound escaped from within, something like a soft hum, low and musical. Her heart thumped wildly. She snatched her hand back. "No, no," she muttered, "it's not mine. I didn't see anything." She turned and hurried to fetch her bucket of water, but as she lifted it onto her head, she couldn't help glancing back. The golden pot gleamed, brighter now, as if calling her. On her way home, she tried to push it out of her mind, but with every step, the image of that pot shimmered before her eyes. By the time she reached her compound, the sky had turned purple and her little sister, Ifeoma, came running. "Sister, you are late again. Mama has been waiting." "I know," Amara said softly, setting down the bucket. Her hands were still trembling. That night, as they sat by the fire, Amara barely ate. Her mother noticed. "Amara, what troubles you?" she asked. "Nothing, Mama, just tired." But she wasn't tired. She was restless. The glow of that pot haunted her. She could almost hear it humming in her ears. When everyone slept, Amara lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The moonlight crawled through the cracks of the thatched roof, drawing silver lines across her face. She turned and whispered to herself, "Maybe, just maybe, I should go back tomorrow." The next day, the sun rose bright and unforgiving. Amara pretended to go fetch more water. This time, she didn't even take her clothes to wash, just a small basket. When she reached the river, the spot was empty. The water looked ordinary again. Her heart sank. Maybe I imagined it. But as she turned to leave, something glittered at the corner of her eye. The golden pot was still there, shining faintly under a patch of morning mist. This time she didn't hesitate. She looked around, made sure she was alone, and ran to it. Kneeling, she dug it out carefully with her hands. The hum returned, stronger now, vibrating through her fingers. It was real. It was hers. Amara wrapped it in her shawl, clutching it close to her chest. As she walked home, she felt something strange. The air around her seemed warmer, and she thought she heard whispers following her footsteps. But when she looked back, no one was there. She didn't tell her mother or sister, not a word. She went straight to her room, pushed her sleeping mat aside, and hid the pot under her bed. That night, when the house was silent, she knelt beside her bed and whispered, "What are you?" The pot made no sound, but deep down she felt it listening. She placed her ear close to the pot. Nothing. But just as she began to set it back, something caught her attention. There were faint letters carved inside the lid. She squinted. The words were ancient but legible. "Write your wish and drop me here. After 24 hours, your wish shall appear." Amara blinked, then laughed nervously. "Write my wish? That's ridiculous." But her laughter didn't last long. The hum grew slightly louder, as if the pot didn't like being mocked. Startled, she covered it again and pushed it back under her bed. She could hardly sleep after that. Every sound, the chirping crickets, the rustling leaves, felt amplified. And deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that the pot was watching her. The next morning, she woke up tired and distracted. Her mother frowned as she prepared breakfast. "Amara, you've been acting strange. Did something happen at the river yesterday?" Amara hesitated. "No, Mama, nothing." Her mother studied her for a moment longer, then sighed. "Be careful, my daughter. Sometimes what glitters in this world is not gold." She froze. Those words struck her heart like a stone. She forced a smile and continued eating, pretending not to care. But her mother's words echoed in her head all day. That evening, when her mother and sister went to the farm, Amara finally gave in. She locked the door and pulled the pot from under her bed. This time, it felt heavier, almost like it had absorbed something from her. "Write your wish," she murmured, remembering the inscription. She tore a small piece of paper from an old book and wrote with a piece of charcoal. "I wish to be the most beautiful girl in the village." It felt silly. She almost laughed again, but curiosity won. She folded the paper and dropped it into the pot. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the pot let out a faint hum, longer and softer than before. The air shimmered slightly, and the scent of wildflowers filled the room. Amara stepped back, startled. Then it stopped. Everything went still again. The next morning, she forgot about it entirely, until she stepped outside. As she fetched water from the calabash, she caught her reflection and gasped. Her skin glowed like polished bronze. Her eyes were brighter, her lips fuller. Her hair shone like silk in the sun. Even her voice, when she spoke, carried a strange melody. "Amara," her sister said, blinking in confusion, "you look different." Her mother came out of the hut, her face filled with wonder. "My child, your skin, what did you rub on it?" Amara stared at her reflection, too stunned to answer. It was true. Her wish had come to life. For the first time, she felt powerful, special, beautiful. When she walked through the market later that day, every eye turned to her. Men stared openly. Women whispered behind her back. Even the chief's son couldn't stop looking. That night, when she lay on her bed, she smiled to herself. The pot works. It really works. The days passed. And Amara's confidence grew, but so did her greed. One evening, she brought out the pot again. "Why should I stop here?" she murmured. "Beauty is good, but wealth is better." She wrote, "I wish for my family to be the richest in the village." This time, the pot glowed brighter than ever before. The humming sound filled her room, vibrating through her chest. Then silence. The next morning, her mother screamed so loud the whole compound came running. Their small hut had transformed overnight. New mats lined the floor, shiny pots, baskets of yam, and fine fabrics filled every corner. Outside, 2 fat goats and a cow grazed in their yard. The neighbors gathered, whispering in awe. Did they find gold? Did someone bless them? Are they hiding something? Amara stood quietly by the doorway, her heart thundering. She knew the truth, but she said nothing. Her mother wept tears of joy. "The gods have remembered us," she cried. Amara smiled faintly. "Yes, Mama, the gods." But as she turned away, she noticed something strange. The golden pot was no longer glowing. It looked dull, almost tired. And for the first time, she thought she heard it whisper, a faint voice echoing inside her mind. "Be careful what you wish for, child of dust." She froze, staring at it. The voice faded. She quickly covered the pot and pushed it back under her bed, her heart pounding. That night, Amara couldn't sleep again. The pot's whisper lingered in her mind, repeating the same warning. She tried to ignore it, but when the moon rose high, her curiosity crept back stronger. What if, she thought, her eyes glinting in the dark, the pot was warm again, waiting.
She whispered, "You give me beauty. You give me riches. What else can you give?" The pots hummed softly like a lullaby. Amara smiled. "Then give me power. Let me rule over everyone who once looked down on me." She wrote her third wish. "I wish to be the queen of this village." When she dropped the paper inside, the pot shuddered violently. The hum turned into a deep rumble that shook the walls. Amara stepped back, fear flickering across her face. "Stop it!" she cried. But it didn't. The golden light flared, blinding her. Then darkness. When she opened her eyes, it was morning. Her mother and sister were kneeling by her bed, weeping with relief. "What happened?" Amara asked weakly. "You were shaking in your sleep," her mother said. "We thought you were dying." Amara sat up slowly, her head pounding. But before she could reply, a loud knock came from outside. A messenger from the palace stood there, holding a staff. "The chief is dead," he announced solemnly. "The elders have consulted the oracle. A new ruler must rise. The gods have spoken the name, Amara, daughter of Nkem." The villagers gasped. Her mother fell to her knees. The gods. But Amara's heart was racing. The pot. By that evening, the drums were beating. People gathered in the square as the elders placed the crown upon Amara's head. She was now Queen Amara, the first woman to ever rule Umuahia. At first, her reign was peaceful. She built new markets, declared holidays, and gave out gifts to the people. But power has a strange way of reshaping the heart. Soon, she began to demand tribute from every household: goats, yams, money. Those who refused were punished. Her laughter became colder, her gaze sharper. Even her family began to fear her. One morning, her mother approached her in the palace courtyard. "My daughter, the people are suffering. You are not the Amara I raised." Amara glared at her. "Do not question your queen, woman." Her mother flinched.
Amara, leave me. Ifeoma, her younger sister, wept quietly in the corner. Sister, please, this isn't you. Amara turned to her, her voice low and dangerous. Do not test me, Ifeoma. From that day, she forbade her family from entering the palace. The golden pot remained hidden in her chamber, glowing brighter than ever, feeding off her greed. But strange things began happening in the village. Crops started dying. The river that once flowed clear turned murky and dark. Children fell ill. The people whispered that the gods were angry. And every night, Amara began to hear voices, soft whispers in her ear as she slept. They called her name. They laughed. Queen Amara, your time is near. She woke up sweating, gasping for breath, only to find the golden pot beside her bed. One night, unable to take it anymore, she grabbed the pot and shouted, "What do you want from me?" The hum grew louder. The pot shook violently. For the first time, a voice spoke from within, deep, echoing, and ancient. You asked, I gave, but every gift has a price. Amara dropped the pot, trembling. Who are you? I am the keeper of desire. You called me when you touched the river's heart. You fed me with your greed. The room grew cold. The flames in her lantern flickered blue. Amara backed away, her heart pounding. I only wanted a better life. And you had it, but now your soul is mine to keep. The pot's light flared, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Faces seemed to form within the golden glow. Faces of villagers crying out in silent agony. Amara screamed and covered it with a cloth. But when she opened her eyes again, the pot was gone. The next morning, her servants found her sitting by the window, pale and silent. She told no one what she'd seen. But her rule grew even harsher. She trusted no one, not even herself. She stopped sleeping. Her eyes darkened. The whispers never stopped. And then one night, under a blood-red moon, she made her final wish. She dragged out a piece of paper with shaking hands and wrote, I wish to be their god. As she placed the note inside the empty space where the pot used to be, she felt a chill sweep through her room. The wind howled outside. The walls groaned. And then, a silence so deep, it felt like the world had stopped breathing.
Thunder rumbled, though no storm came. The moon turned red and heavy, hanging above the village like a bleeding wound. The wind tore through the trees, bending them low, howling as though the earth itself was mourning. Amara stood at her window, her royal robes whipping around her in the storm. Her eyes glowed faintly in the darkness, half with fear, half with a strange hunger. Why, she whispered, why will you not grant me this one wish? There was no answer, only silence. Then, from behind her, a low hum began. The hum deepened. The pot began to speak, its voice layered and echoing, neither male nor female, something ancient, something beyond human. You wished for beauty, you wished for gold, you wished for power, and with every wish you fed me. Amara's throat tightened. Who are you? I am what lives in desire. I am the hunger that never ends. The pot pulsed with golden light. All around her, the walls began to fade, dissolving into mist.
The throne room vanished, the marble floors turned to dust beneath her feet. She looked down and saw that her own hands were glowing, breaking apart into tiny motes of light. "No!" she gasped. "Stop this! I am your queen!" The voice thundered. "There are no queens in the realm of greed."
The golden pot opened and light poured out like a river. The wind howled through her chambers, blowing her crown away. She screamed, shielding her face. And then, silence. When Amara opened her eyes, she was no longer in her palace. She was lying on the cold sand beside the river, the same river she had gone to wash her clothes that first day. Her hands were rough again, her wrapper torn and muddy. The sound of the flowing water was soft, peaceful, too peaceful. She sat up slowly, her heart pounding. The sun was rising, casting a warm orange glow across the water. Birds sang in the distance. Everything was as it had been. Her bucket of clothes sat beside her.
The golden pot was gone. Amara blinked in confusion. "No, this can't be." She looked at her reflection in the water. Her old face stared back. No royal jewels, no glowing skin, no crown. Just plain, simple Amara. She touched her chest, trembling. Was it all a dream? Her memory came rushing back. The wishes, the crown, the voice, the pot, the power, the pain. It had all felt so real. She sat there for a long time, staring into the river, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. When she finally stood, her legs were weak. She lifted her bucket and began the walk home. The same dusty path, the same trees whispering above her. But now, every sound felt different, softer, more alive. She could hear the heartbeat of the earth. When she reached her compound, her mother was outside pounding yam. Ife Oma was fetching water. Both looked up as she approached. "Amara," her mother said gently, "you are late again." Amara froze, the exact words her mother had said that day. Her breath caught in her throat. "Sorry, Mama," she whispered, her voice trembling. Her mother smiled faintly. "Go and rest, my child. The sun will be fierce today." Amara nodded, walking into the hut. The familiar smell of smoke and palm oil filled her nose. Everything was as it used to be, but her heart felt heavier than ever. She sat on her bed, staring at the spot where she had once hidden the pot. The mat was plain, empty. Then she whispered to herself, if it was a dream, then it was a warning. From that day forward, Amara changed. She worked harder than before, shared her food with others, and smiled with humility. The villagers noticed her transformation and often said, "Amara's heart shines brighter than her beauty." And when she walked to the river now, she no longer searched the banks or looked for hidden treasures. She would only kneel by the water, touch its cool surface, and whisper softly, "May I never crave what will destroy me." Moral of the story: greed is a golden chain. It glitters while it tightens around your soul. Be content with what the earth gives, for sometimes even dreams can carry curses.